Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2025, the second UzChess Cup. This is one of the strongest chess tournaments in Uzbekistan. Even though this tournament is held in Uzbekistan, but still there are players from other countries who are participating, and all of them are extremely strong. And today, in this video, I am gonna do a recap of a game that is being played by Nodirbek Abdusattorov from Uzbekistan. And right now, he is in the sole lead. He is 2.5 out of 3. And so far, having a great time with this tournament, doing really good. Now, before I take a look at that game, first of all, I'm going to quickly introduce this tournament to you guys because this is the first time ever that I did a recap of this tournament. So, the UzChess Cup is one of the strongest chess tournaments in Uzbekistan, featuring top chess players from around the world. And here there's the Players Masters. So there are 3 sections, basically actually 2 sections, the Masters and the Challengers. And what we're going to be focusing on is the Masters section. And there are 10 players. We have Arjun Erigaisi, Pragnananda Ramesh Babu, Aravind Chidambaram. These 3 players are from India. And then we have Nodirbek Abdusattorov, Richard Repper, Yana Pomunyachi, and some players from Uzbekistan as well. And in the challengers, they will be playing for the rankings, and then if they did well, they'll be into the masters. And here we have the schedule. The 2025 UzChess Cup takes place from June 19 to June 27. That's actually a pretty long time. And here the format. The UzChess Cup is a 10-player round robin. No matter in the Masters section or in the Challengers section, it's the same. The time control is 90 minutes for the first 40 moves, followed by 30 more minutes for the rest of the game. So that is called the second time control. So the whole time control is actually extremely long, and you can play a game for up to 6 or 7 hours or even more. And with a 30-second increment starting from move 1. And here are the prizes. Features a $105,000 prize fund, with $80,000 going to the Masters and $25,000 going to the Challengers. Even though there's a big gap between the prizes, but still, it's a lot, no matter for the Masters or the Challengers. Alright, so now that you guys know some back details about this tournament, let's now jump into this game. We have Nodirbek Abdusattorov, the first, right now the first place player. Well, right now he is in the sole lead, playing against Shamsiddin Vokhidov. Vokhidov. I thought I pronounced it wrong, but Shamsiddin. So these 2 players are both from Uzbekistan, and Nodirbek, first of all, has a 100 plus rating gap. He is up 100 points against his opponent. And Shamsiddin also has a rating of 2644, not bad, but compared to Nodirbek's 2767, it's still a little bit lower. But it doesn't really affect much of the game's quality, and let's jump into it. Nodirbek with the white pieces starts with the move e4, and we have e5, the most widely played opening in the Masters chess. And here we have knight f3, knight c6, and normally for us, bishop b5, the royal opus, or as we call the Russian opening, also the Italian game, bishop c4, and also the Scotch d4. These are the main 3 options in this opening. If you want, you can also play knight c3, the 4 knights, that is. But here, guess what? Nodirbek, instead of playing all of these possible options, no matter it's bishop b5, bishop c4, d4, or knight c3, he didn't play any of them. And instead, he played this really dubious move, an unexpected move, g3. This is called the king's knight, and it has a very long name, like it's a really cited variation, g3, and already it gives black the initiative and the small edge in this position. And the reason for that is because the idea of g3 is obviously to fee and cheater the bishop to g2, but as you can see, this whole diagonal is being blocked by the e4 pawn, and with the bishop on g2, it can't really do much besides staring at its own pawn and its own knight. So the bishop obviously is really passive and useless on the g2 square, but nonetheless, Nodirbek played this move instantly. So either it is in his own home preparation, and he wants to get out of his opponent's preparation, so to get out of his comfort zone, or maybe he just wanted to go for something different. But by looking at the time usage, I think this is something that he prepared before this game because he didn't really think much. And now the question turns directly to black. What should black do here? Here, only two moves somehow just keeps the advantage. And these two moves are knight f6 to develop the knight, and the other one is to start opening up the center immediately with d5. Now in the game, Shamsiddin, he plays the move knight f6, the best move. Here Nodirbek plays d3, defending the e4 pawn, not a problem. And here bishop c5 was played. Bishop g2, but as you can see, this bishop is just staring at its own pawn and not doing much. At least it is what it seems right now, but maybe not in the future of this game. Shamsiddin here plays the move d6, and here we have short castle, h6. But already, as we can see, no matter at the position, like looking at the position or at the eval bar, we see that suddenly white is not that worse after all, just after a couple of moves that black had played. Now, what is the problem here? It just seems that after a couple of moves, black just played some really normal developing moves, but suddenly the advantage is gone and white is already fine again. Well, the point is that black here desperately needs to play this move d5 to keep the advantage. And after e takes d5, knight takes d5, even though it opens up this diagonal of the light square bishop, but it is still, the positive side is much more than the negative side for the black pieces. And here after castles, and here, let's say white develops with the rook u1, but here, after the move bishop g4, it is not that easy for this knight to get out of this very annoying pin, and this bishop can still not be activated. And with that, also we see that these black pieces and the pawns are all really well placed in the center of the board and limiting white's development. So this is better for the black pieces after the move d5. But unfortunately in the game, Shamsiddin plays the move d6, which seems less accurate, but more normal and positional. And here Nodirbek just goes for short castle, and here h6 was played, preventing bishop g5. Here h3 was played, preventing bishop g4, castles, and here we have the move knight c3. This is a little bit dubious once again, because white should have just followed the idea similar to the Italian or the Roy Lopez to play the move c3, and the idea is to go b4 or d4 in the future. But after knight c3, there's no sorts of ideas of c3, b4, or d4 anymore, and here Shamsiddin plays the move a5. This is a really nice move because somehow white might be playing knight a4 in the future, and the bishop can now safely retreat back to a7 without giving up the bishop pair. And in the game here, Nodirbek plays the move king h2. This move is quite necessary, even though probably not the best, but the idea is really nice here and creative. Knight h4 is most likely the idea, and then f4 ideas might be coming up for white to create some counterattack on the king side. And here Shamsiddin plays the move bishop e6, developing his pieces. Here we have the move knight d2. Well, the idea is quite similar with knight h4, which is also possible to push f4. But knight d2 might even be more accurate than knight h4. Knight d2, d5. So as you can see, after a couple of moves, Black still plays the move d5. But as you can see, he played the d6 and then d5. And already, as you can see, White's pieces are already on better squares compared to the earlier position where pushing d5 will be much more effective compared to the d5 right now. And no longer Black has an advantage after the move d5. And here Nodirbek plays the move f4, ignoring the battle in the center and creating his own battleground on the king side. And here Shamsiddin plays e takes f4, g takes f4, d takes e4, opening up everything, but already this is actually better for White because after d takes e4, White has these two very strong pawns in the center of the board, gaining control of all of these important squares, and it looks like White will have a really nice attack ongoing on the king side. And here Shamsiddin plays the move knight d4, jumping the knight into the center of the board, but not really doing anything. Nodirbek plays the move knight b3, offering a trade of knights. Here knight takes b3, and we have a takes b3, c6, queen e2, and you might be wondering why not just trade the queens out for Black. And after queen takes d1, rook takes d1, but unfortunately, after this exchange of the queens, White is still much better, and after the best move c6 here, without the queens on the board, White's king will be much safer, and also these pawns can now just start pushing up the board. Bishop has to go back, and as you can see, White's pieces are so active compared to Black's really passive and undeveloped pieces, and ongoing, probably in the endgame, White should be having a decisive advantage and most likely win the game. So here, that is why in the game, Shamsiddin decides to play c6 first, and of course, it is not accurate or good for White to take on d8 to exchange the queens, and here, queen e2 was played, because after c6, if you take on d8, and after Black takes on d8, Black can now just gain the control of the d file first, and Black will be just slightly worse compared to queen takes d1 first, with White gaining control of the open d file first. And here we have the move queen e2, so not trading the queens, not giving Black the chance to do that. And here rook e8 was played, bishop f3, knight d7, bishop d2, f5. And here, because already it is quite desperate for Black, White's idea is most likely to play queen g2 and then f5 to trap the bishop, but also after the queen comes to g2, there's f5 and even bishop takes h6 ideas. So Black needs to defend very accurately. In the game here, Black played the move f5, and here it simply just allows Nodirbek to push e5 and create a pass pawn. Even though right now this pawn doesn't do much because it is being blocked by Black's pieces, but in the future, especially in the endgame, it can help a lot. And also right now, it limits Black's pieces and then can probably help White to create a much more effective attack on the king side. So here Shamsiddin plays the move knight f8, trying to maneuver his pieces to some squares where it might be more effective to the defense. And here we have the move knight a4, attacking the bishop. So not only is White creating counterplay on the king side, but also suddenly there's Nodirbek just gives a strike on the queen side. And Shamsiddin is kind of struggling here. He plays bishop a7, but he has simply too many weaknesses. The a5 pawn, the g7 pawn, the h6 pawn, it's not that easy to defend them all. And here Nodirbek plays bishop e3, offering a trade of bishops, trying to trade off the best, the most active piece in Black's territory. And Black has to take, and after queen takes e3, here White is clearly better because in a rule of thumb or in a general, when you reach a position and the material is even, the pawn structure, how to evaluate a position? First of all, the king's safety. And here, White's king is pretty safe because Black has no way to attack the king. And Black's king is right now kind of safe. There are pawns in front of it, but still in the future, rook g1 ideas to attack the king, and it's unclear. Second, the pawn structure. And as we can see here, clearly it is White who is better with this big pass pawn in the center of the board. And then the third one is the activity or the placements of the pieces. And as you can see here, nearly all of the pieces, like all of the white pieces, are well placed, better placed than black's pieces. And then material advantage, well, in this case, material is even, so there's nothing we can do about that. But king safety, pawn structure, and the pieces placements, all of them, white is the side who is better, and that is why in this position, white is better. And it's not that easy for black to play, even though black is not losing or just slightly worse, but he needs to play really accurately. In the game, he played bishop f7, and in the rule of thumb, it is always the best to use a knight to prevent the passed pawn from pushing, and that is what Shamsiddin is doing here. And here in the game, bishop e2 was played, b5. Rook d1, attacking the queen. Queen goes to e7, knight c5, rook a d8. And here, rook g1, rook takes d1, rook takes d1, knight e6. And here, the only move for black to keep the game going is actually to play the move g5. And after this move, black is even slightly better due to the fact that white cannot really take because you lose the e5 pawn and you lose the game. So here, white's only move here, well, white's remaining few options are to play knight d3 to defend passively, or to play rook g1 to create this pin and prevent this pawn from taking on f4 in a short term. But however, this is a move that is so hard to spot and needs a lot of courage to play. And instead, in the game, Shamsiddin goes for this more normal looking move, knight e6, but he simply missed the fact that after knight takes e6, bishop takes e6, the move rook d6. And now, even though pawn structure and material is quite the same, but still we see that white has this big passed pawn in the center of the board, and also it's the same colored bishop, and white's bishop is obviously much more active than black's bishop, with black also having these weaknesses that is really hard to defend. And here, bishop d5 was played, but after bishop takes b5, white is just simply up a pawn, c takes b5, rook takes d5. Can black really hold this position? Well, rook c8, c3, a4, rook takes b5, there goes another pawn, and it turns out that it is impossible for black to save the position, even though it might seem that black can create some counterplay and activate the queen, maybe give a couple of checks, but it doesn't do much. Queen a1, e6, just start pushing the pawns. White is up 2 pawns, but also just like this pass pawn is just gonna push up the board. Queen f1, c4, rook a8, e7, king h7. Can black stop it? Well, there goes another pawn. Queen b1, rook d5, and here rook d8 is coming, and it's unstoppable. There are no available checks for black. And here, with that, Shamsiddin resigned this game, and what a beautiful win by Nodirbek. He had a huge, he had a really high accuracy in this whole game, scoring to about 96 here by chess.com. And in the opening, sometimes, openings are not the most important element of this whole game, because even though if you have gained an advantage in the opening, but you are really bad at middle games or end games, still it doesn't matter, because middle games and end games are the ones who really decide what this game's outcome will be. And here, as we can see in this game, Nodirbek, even though he decided to play something not so good, not standard, not theoretical option to play the move g3 here, but still, he did a really nice job in the defense and also in the transformation of the middle game and the end game, and in the end, he won this game. So, again, a beautiful game by him. This is round 1 in the UzChess Cup, and already the time I'm recording this video, 3 rounds have been played. He drew the second game and won the third game, another beautiful game against Richard Reppert. So now he is in the solo lead, and can he perform as good as these first 3 rounds in the later ones? Who knows? But right now, I hope you guys learned something from this game, and hope you guys enjoyed my recap of this game. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!